You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
So welcome back to the podcast, and I am back on trail. Just to let you know how I got back there. I got back on Tuesday, flew to Atlanta again, and I used the MARTA, which is the train that takes you, once you've got your baggage, further north, and so I could be picked up by Ron Brown. The MARTA took me to Sandy Springs station, and I dragged my backpack in a duffel bag to La Quinta, about 15, 20 minutes away. It was exhausting, to be honest with you, and I was thinking I'll have to carry that on my back shortly. But I got there, and Nina Banducci showed up. And the reason I'm going to play this is that Nina firstly said she was going to show up to tell me about the various things on polar steps I needed to know, because I'm not very good at using it myself yet, but she showed me how to do it. But she had this amazing offer for people who use polar steps, who are hiking the AT this year. So really, listen to this. So I'm about to get back on trail, and Nina Banducci from Polar Steps is here, and she just told me something quite interesting. But first, Nina, you kindly came to teach me how to use Polar Steps,
yes,
which is helpful.
Right.
Hopefully people will learn how to use it. And if anybody wants to know how to do it, they can reach out to me if they're on trail, and I'll show them how to use it. Or if I can't sort it out, I'm going to give you Nina's email when you ask me for it at the time.
Exactly.
But you told me something quite exciting about Trail Days, so tell us about that.
Yes, so we've partnered with a bunch of different hostels along the way, and you'll see posters of that as you go. But the big thing that we are doing this year is any hiker that has been tracking with Polar Steps consistently, you come and find me at Trail Days, and you show me your Polar Steps map, and you will be entered into our drawing. If you are not going to Trail Days, then you can email your trip link to me, nina@polarsteps.com, and you will also be entered into a drawing for a raffle. We are going to be drawing 5 hikers, and those 5 hikers will get the rest of their trail hostel sponsored by us, by Polar Steps. So it's a big, big prize.
I've got to tell you, you have no idea what you're taking on there, because they get more expensive in the north as well.
I know.
Oh,
fewer and far between, but yeah, we feel like it's important, and I think once you use the app, you continue to use it. So it's just a little extra added perk.
There's a big extra added perk.
Yeah.
And I can tell everybody now, I'm going to be entering as well. And make sure I bump into Nina on Trail Days and there's myself. But thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming and see me. And I'm ready to get going again tomorrow morning.
I'm excited for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Happy
Excellent.
hike.
Cheers. How about that then? That's an incredibly generous offer. I hope they realise how much that's going to cost for 5 people to get their stays paid all the way to Katahdin. I actually asked her if I could enter. She said I could, so I'm damn well going to, I can assure you. So those of you who are actually out on trail and are using Polar Steps, you want to try it out. Anyway, let's get on to day number 3, which was Hightower Gap to Gooch Mountain Shelter. And if you recall, it was Hightower Gap, which is just after the first shelter, Hawk Mountain Shelter, that I left off the previous week, and 2 weeks ago, in fact. And Ron said he would take me there, which was great. And he was due to pick me up at 7 a.m. Unfortunately, he was late, and his schedule was screwed up by people being late, I think. And there were 4 of us in the car. And he said to me, would I mind if he left me at Amicalola Falls, and we got there about 9:30. And then he'd come pick me up about 2 hours later when he'd picked up some other people to bring his schedule back into control. I mean, I felt I was in no real hurry, so I was quite relaxed about it. So I said, sure, yeah, you can come back and pick me up. And he was going to pick me up about 11:30. So I just toured around there a bit. I met up with Tonya Lansbury there. She was her name was Monarch on the trail, and she is now a ranger there. Poor old dog Zoe had been overdosed the night before, and she'd spent the night in an animal hospital, unfortunately. But Zoe seemed a whole lot better on that day, but pretty wary, I think, as I suppose dogs would be. Anyway, Ron eventually turned up, and about 11:30, and he took me to Hightower Gap. We got there I got started about 12:45. It was only about 7 miles, so and really, it was one of those hikes where the difficulty is all in the beginning, and there was a couple of quick climbs to get my heart going, and it did. My cough had largely gone by then. I was feeling a whole lot better, and I can tell straight away the fitness I got from my workouts this year, on my legs particularly, was really helping me in this first stint of hikes. And I got up these first two hills, and I thought, well, that's not too bad. But I knew Sassafras Mountain was coming, and that was the biggest climb of the day. And that, not surprisingly, kicked my ass again, as it was bound to do. But I got up there and over there. And I've always felt that you've just got to keep going. And when I go over these high climbs, I still have to check my heart rate. My Apple Watch turned out to be useless, by the way, because it was way too the battery was eaten up by the Apple Watch. So I bought myself a Fitbit to check my heart rate. And of course, I have to check my heart rate when I'm going uphill to make sure that I don't get too high. And so far on this trip, I think I've only gone over 150 once. And I just wait to come back down again to below 140, and I can then carry on. So I did that again. Then the sun came out, which was wonderful, obviously, and it actually got up to the 70s, which was almost a bit too warm. And I eventually got to Gooch, and it was about 7.9 miles, I believe. Took 4 hours, which was pretty darn good. I was pretty happy. But of course, there was a tent city there, and I'd forgotten that at Gooch, they've got all these tent pads laid out, and there's some really good flat spots there. I set myself up, and I just went to introduce myself to people. I was chatting with a bunch of them, which was nice. And up at the shelter, there were a bunch of ladies who were out for a section hiking 3 or 4 days, and they were staying in the shelter overnight. And just as they always do, it's funny, you come to a shelter and all pretense is left aside. You're all going to eat, you're all going to sleep somewhere, you're all going to poop in the woods somewhere. It is such a leveler. And I found it straight away. I really felt I was kind of, I don't know, amongst my people again. And it was just good to be meeting everybody. So I turned in at about, 8 o'clock. And first night back in my tent and my first day hiking back. I was very happy with that result, I tell you. If you're heading out on a long hike this year, which I am, I've got something I think you're going to love. It's called Polar Steps. It's a travel tracking app that's going to become a favourite with hikers. You set your start date, let it run quietly in the background, and it maps your entire journey automatically, all on your own beautiful spinning 3D globe. And don't worry, the tracking feature uses about 4% of your battery on a single charge, so it's not going to kill your phone when you're out there. You can add photos and short journal entries as you go, so your map shows you where you were and your words remind you of what that day actually felt like. There's a light social layer too. Family and friends can follow along, or you can keep it completely private. As every hiker says, hike your own hike. And when you're done, you can relive the whole thing in the app or turn it into a stunning coffee table book with your route, stats, photos and stories. And did I tell you that it's entirely free to download and use? The only time you'll be paying anything is if you decide to turn your trip into a book. That's Polar Steps. Track it now, treasure it forever. So day 4 was a bit of an adventure, actually. It was from Gooch Mountain Shelter to Dockery Trail. And you really see that as a place to stop at. But I'll explain as we go along. I went to bed about 8 p.m. and woke up about 6 a.m. And I think I must have slept for 5 or 6 hours, even though the night, as they often do when you go to bed so early, seemed pretty endless, to be honest with you. But so I think if I had 5 or 6 hours, I think I'll take that as a win for an early night in the shelter. So in my tent, so I feel pretty happy with that. And then, of course, my normal disease of the morning of being completely unable to leave camp kicked in. Remember, I woke up at 6 a.m. I had breakfast. So you think, oh, I probably got out by 7. I got out at 8:45. I just don't get it. I don't know why I'm so useless at leaving camp all the time. And I don't know what to do about it, because it hasn't really improved in the last few days either. I think I do insist on having breakfast, and not everybody does that, especially on the cold mornings they don't. But this was a nice morning, so I took my food up to the shelter and the picnic table and sat with the ladies and with other guys who were turning up, and it was nice. They had a bare boxes, but they also had bare cables, so I hung mine up on the cable, and that works really well for me. I need to learn the PCT hang. I know I should know how to do it. The PCT hang is a special way of hanging your food when you have to loop it over a tree. And I'm told there are no bare cables or bare boxes from North Carolina. So I need to learn it pretty quickly. Anyway, I'll work on that as it is. Anyway, I got on with it. And even though I left at 8:45, I took breaks along the way. I was very comfortable on this day, and I felt very comfortable so far generally. I took out my chair and sat down with people twice. I know some people think it's silly to take a chair, but it is absolutely the best piece of equipment. I'm never going hiking without a chair again, I can guarantee you. I sat down with one guy. He was an ex-military guy who'd hiked the previous year on the Warrior Expeditions group. Nice fella, and very enthusiastic. I said, what are you doing back here this year? And he said that he was back to mentor the Warrior Expedition people this year. What a way to give back, eh? I mean, that's really impressive. And he was a really nice fellow. We just sat and chatted for a while. He was one of these kind of enthusiastic about everything guys. And, I warmed to him immediately. I also met a couple who hiked the trail 10 years ago in 2016, Journeyman and Magellan. And Journeyman is the same age as me, 73. And I don't know how Magellan is actually. But once again, they're very quiet people, actually. They keep to themselves, but I saw them having a cup of coffee, so I inserted myself into their conversation, got my chair out and started chatting, and it was nice talking to them. Then, and I know those of you who listen to this podcast for some time are probably waiting for this, I had my first fall. And of course, it was on the flat. I'm walking along with no cares in the world, not really paying too much attention. I hit a root and I started running forward because there was no danger. It was on the flat. And I thought if I could run fast enough, I'd catch myself. But of course, I'm not old enough to run fast enough these days. And I fell. And I fell straight forward. And of course, the number one rule is first work out you're not dead. Check. I wasn't dead. Then find out if you think there's anything injured. Check. Nothing injured. Then shout out the number of the fall. Number 1! So there I was, fall number 1 in the books, and I didn't let any of you down. I called it out straight away. Now, the problem I had for this day, there was no shelter that was convenient, and there's a rule in place that you need a bare canister to go past Gerard's Gap into an area of Blood Mountain. And I don't have a canister, so I had to stop beforehand, and everybody was stopping beforehand. There's 2 places to camp, Lance Creek and Gerard's Gap. And I thought to myself, these are going to be full up already because so many people had gone past me. I was, I just knew. I heard from a ridge runner, there were plenty of people already at Gerard's Gap and already some at the other place as well, Lance Creek. So I decided to do something about it. I was looking far out and I discovered the Hidden Pond Hostel. I had never heard of it before. It's been going about 3 years, I think it is. So I wondered if I could get there. It looked very close to where I was. And I got to a place called Dockery Trail. And I checked on Google Maps and I saw there was a road quite close to the hostel. So I thought to myself, well, if I can get to that road, I should be okay. And Google Maps walking map will help me get there. Well, that didn't work out at all well, I promise you. I got lost 3 times. Once by going about half a mile the wrong way entirely, so I then had to recheck myself and go back the other way. And clearly they don't want anybody walking along this Dockery Trail. And I shouldn't have done this, and I don't encourage anybody to do it. So I've since found out that Hidden Pond Hostel picks up at Jarrett's Gap and at several other gaps as well, but nowhere near where I was. But I just thought I could get there. And I eventually found a road, and I called Olivia, and she didn't tell me off, but she came to get me, and she said, you know, you really shouldn't be going there. We shouldn't be picking you up around there. And so, you know, it's a word of warning to the wise. You can't do that. They can pick you up at Jarrett's Gap and several Jarrett's Gap and several gaps before that as well. So I was lucky I got there actually because I'm quite a prodigious snorer, and the bunkhouse was completely empty. There are 14 bunks in there and beautifully clean. It was a great place. And there's an upstairs sleeping area as well. And it just really was a lovely place. There was also an immaculately clean bathhouse, which had a great shower, great toilet, you know, and it's a really well set up place. My washing was done. Olivia took my washing for me. She offered me food. So I had some pulled pork sandwiches, and that's for donation only. Very reasonable. And there's resupply. And later, Mark and Olivia gave me a tour of the property, and it's about 3 acres. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I cannot recommend it more highly. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I asked Olivia if she'd mind interviewing with me, and so here she is. So I'm here at the Hidden Pond Hostel with Olivia Neal. Hey, Olivia, thanks for talking to us.
Thanks for talking to me, Steve. This is nice.
So tell us about your story. You're a hiker.
Yes.
And you did a thru-hike when?
I hiked northbound in 2022.
And what on earth made you want to do this?
Well, there were many things in my life that were changing, and I was not sure what direction they were going to go, but I knew that God had a plan, and that has been clear as I can sit at this table and talk to you right now.
Cool. So tell us then. So this is such a diverse place, isn't it? You actually have got a hidden pond out the back, which is phenomenal. So tell everybody what you've got in the hostel.
When you arrive at Hidden Pond,
apart from the millions of chickens, by the way.
Yes, there is a bunkhouse with 13 beds. There's a loft. There is a separate bathhouse. The bunkhouse is separate from the bathhouse, and that is separate from the main house that has a private room and a den with a television and couches and chairs, a large kitchen table that hikers can use to plan out their upcoming days.
Ooh.
A guest book where hikers have enjoyed time doing some artwork and writing different things with photos of themselves in there. Seems like that's been a good time for hikers to get to know each other a little bit, put stickers and notes and things.
So is it what you imagine it would be? Right? Because running a hostel is a business anyway, and it's a tough business to do. And people often don't do it for making a huge amount of money. So has it panned out the way you thought it would?
No, not at all. It's all totally different than I would have guessed, but I did not know what to expect.
So how do people, and one of the problems I think has been for me to find you, because I didn't know about you at all. And I'm not going to talk about how I got here, but I eventually got here. So what do you pick up at certain places for people? So tell people where you can pick them up from.
I pick up from Gooch Gap, Woody Gap, and Girard Gap going northbound.
Right. And do you do slack packing?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
So what do you do with that? Do you take people further north and they walk south again, or what?
Generally, that is decided by the hikers when they arrive. There is a chart with the different distances from the nearby gaps, and then hikers sometimes will decide amongst themselves if they want to go in together to one gap and then hike to a different destination, then I'll pick them up. And the slack packs between Gooch Gap, Woody Gap, and Girard Gap are free. And then if someone wanted to go, for example, from Neal Gap and then be dropped off as a group and then hike back to Girard Gap or Woody Gap, then I can pick them up for free.
That'd be nice.
Yes.
That'd be a good one, yeah.
Yes, and then the elevation.
So that's going
is
north,
in the
that's going
favor.
south up over Blood Mountain.
Yes.
And from my memory, going north over Blood Mountain, it is endless, isn't it? All these false summits on the way up there. You think, I've got to be there in a minute. And you go around, there's another summit to hit.
I think the elevation is in your favor doing that section southbound.
You could be right.
Mm-hmm.
So how do people get hold of you? Tell us about contact.
Generally, Far Out is the place I'm getting contacts from. The landline is on Far Out as call only. Occasionally, someone will tell me they've texted that number, but it's call only because it's a landline.
Because that's why it says call only. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other number is the text only, and then that goes directly to my cell phone.
Okay. And you got a website?
Yes.
Tell everybody what that is.
The website is hiddenpondhostel.com, and there is a call button, I think pretty close to the top of the website. It says call now.
Okay, cool. Well, I wish you well with it. Hope it goes well. Thank you for putting me up. It's been lovely. You've actually given me food tonight, which is terrific.
I'm glad.
And I'm charging my phone. I'm going to have a shower, and I'm going to get some laundry done. It could not be better. So I appreciate your hospitality.
No, I'm really glad to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Day number 5, Dockery Trail to Bull Gap. I had a fantastic sleep in the bunkhouse with no one else there. Of course I did. And it was a real treat. The sheets were lovely and I was very comfortable there. My alarm went quite early. I was told I could come to the house for another coffee at about 7:30, but that was too late for me. So I got coffee early on. I made my own coffee on my porch and just sat there. Lovely little porch outside the bunkhouse. And I just sat there and just enjoyed watching the sun come up. I got into the house, had another cup of coffee Mark gave me, which was very kind of him. And I bought a banana and an apple for snacks. Didn't buy much from there, but and everything was incredibly cheap. The previous night I'd had cans of soda, just $1 each, and so it was great really. And Olivia dropped me where she'd picked me up, so I had to bushwhack my way back to the trail. But this time, of course, I knew roughly where I was going, and I found the trail pretty quickly. And I immediately ran into people who told me that both sites were full the previous night. So I'm very glad I went to the hostel. And as I say, I strongly recommend you go to the hostel if you get the chance. But get picked up at the right place. Don't be a fool like me. This was Blood Mountain Day, and it's the highest peak we have to climb, I think in Georgia altogether, but certainly in those early days before Neal Gap. And it almost feels like a rite of passage. Everything leads upwards towards Blood Mountain. There was some, you got away with a few downs, but generally you were heading upwards all day long. And you know what? I really feel that the benefits of my training are really kicking in. My legs feel so strong. And I've been expecting to struggle all day long up Blood Mountain, but really, I found it far easier than I expected to. I don't remember it being as accessible as I found it, and I got there in reasonable time. I mean, I'm still stopping every, 30, 40, 50, maybe sometimes 100 yards to gasp a bit. But generally, my legs are standing up well, and if I take my time, I can get up any mountain, which is very encouraging. I mean, I'm not saying that will get me up a mountain in New Hampshire right now, but so far I'm feeling very comfortable that I'm able to go up these mountains, whichever one's in front of me. At the top, there's a bunch of us sat around chatting, taking pictures around the Blood Mountain shelter, which is really a gory looking affair. I would never stay at that Blood Mountain shelter, even if I had a bear canister. But we climbed up a few further rocks so we could get an outstanding view over the countryside all around. Absolutely beautiful. I think we all felt pretty good about our climb. We'd all got there, as people often do on this trail, and it was great. Heading down was tough though. There's I always forget how difficult the downs are. I don't think it's hurting my knees that much, but your foot angle changes and you find yourself just in a different position, obviously, and there are different considerations to have. But I found it tough getting down. And then, of course, getting to Neal Gap does feel like that rite of passage. You've got through the early tough bits, and you're now 30 odd miles into the journey. And people started applauding as I came down. And I think they were applauding everybody who came down. And a tramway had formed, and one of them recognized me. A lady recognized me. Because I didn't want to stay at the bunkhouse there, I wanted to get up to Bull Gap, which I think was a mile, maybe a half a mile hike at the end of the day, very uphill. And I set off like a train and I kept going. You know, unfortunately, I got a message halfway up from Chrissy Schubert, who turned up to surprise me, I think, her and her daughter Addie. But of course, I was gone. And it's happened a couple of times now where people were trying to surprise me and I wasn't there. And, you know, I feel pretty bad about it, but I said I'm going to catch up with her later in the hike, and I am going to catch up with them both. Got to Bull Gap, plenty of places to camp, some better than others, and I found a pretty decent one, if I say so myself. And I then had a bit of an adventure hanging my food. As I say, I haven't worked out the PCT hang, but I hung my food and wrapped the rope all around a tree, and it never fell down. So I'm pretty happy about that. But when I came back, I saw two of the ladies who I'd been seeing quite a bit of, Maybelline, who's through hiking, and a friend Titi. So I interviewed Maybelline, and here she is. Okay, I'm at Bull Gap with Sarah Lopez and Titi, her friend, but Sarah is called Maybelline. So that's why you're called Maybelline.
Because my husband saw me putting mascara on in the morning on a trail.
And I saw you the other morning as well doing exactly the same thing, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Right. So you're here, and I know that, Titi, you're doing about 100 miles. I know you haven't got a microphone at the moment, so maybe you can shout, but you're doing the whole thing, aren't you?
I'm attempting, yes.
And I know your husband's done it before, so tell me, is this a bit of family rivalry or what?
Definitely not.
Okay.
It's been calling to me since I met Jennifer Farr Davis.
Oh, really? And how was she?
She was wonderful. I cried when I talked to her, you know, because it was like she was talking to me.
Really?
So, and in my life, I usually challenge myself with big physical events, marathons, half Ironmans.
Oh, right.
Things like that. I did a bodybuilding show.
Wow.
And that was my last one. And that was 9 years ago.
Right.
So this has kind of been building.
You need another challenge. So, and you told me the other day your husband's done this, but he's actually already on the Appalachian Trail right now as well.
He is. He will be meeting us in Hiawassee.
All right.
He hiked all the way to the North Carolina border, and will be passing through Hiawassee the same day we're passing north. So
your plan, I know Titi's going home after her goal was about 100 miles, I think?
Yes.
Something like that. Right. So how is the reality against the expectation so far?
Well, I was here for 3 weeks.
Right.
So for me, if I can get through the first 3 weeks and meet that goal, but it's hard.
It is.
It's hard.
I found it tough today.
Yeah, and the big picture of being away for 5 months is really hard. I am we talk about this all the time. I'm a people pleaser. You know, we please our husbands, and whatever, you know, if he says, you're carrying too much food, I drop the extra food.
Oh, really? You'll get over that soon.
I had to buy extra food. You know, I was undernourished.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So the expectation, people are expecting me to fail.
Are they?
Yeah, some family members don't think that I'm going to make it.
That's kind of,
so
that's unfair, really, because, you know, it's tough enough holding yourself together out here anyway.
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody at home thinks you're going to fail, I bet your husband doesn't think you're going to fail, does
Not
he?
at all. He told me once TT leaves, if things are not going well, if I'm feeling alone or lonely or that I want to come home, he will drop his summer plans and come out and hike my hike
Right.
to make sure that I make my goals.
That's so cool.
So, and he's hard. He's hard to hike with because he's really strong. So for me to have him come back says, I'm struggling here and I either have to come home or you have to come get me.
And
you have to come help me.
And today was Blood Mountain, which I always knew was going to be quite tough. From my memory, it was easier going up than it was last time for me, but it was much tougher going down. And that really surprised me.
I was expecting the toughness coming down. I remember how bad it was.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
It was terrible. I hated it. But I did not remember the climb from Neal Gap to here. I thought it was less and not as tough.
Yeah, that took a while for me.
Yeah, but we had extra water and extra food.
Yeah.
So that was hard. But the interesting thing is when we hiked together, we did a week back in 19, and I was the strong one,
Right.
you know, but she's changed her life in over the last 2.5 years. While she's gotten stronger and fitter, I've had shoulder injuries and shoulder surgeries, and I'm not up to, like, she's hard to keep up with. But we have a set destination, and I'm doing my hike.
In many ways, that'd be a good thing because you know you've got to be by yourself doing your own hike because she's going to leave.
She is.
How are you going to feel about that?
I think I might cry.
Well, that's okay. That's all right. I always feel that the trail exacerbates all emotions out here. I can feel myself welling up a few times of things that go on. You know, it just kind of it just brings everything to the fore, doesn't it? It really does.
I told her that it's lucky she has plans for Easter with her nephew, or I'd be convincing her to stay.
Oh, cool.
So she might cry during this podcast, but I know I won't. So, but I mean, I came out here solo, intending to be solo.
Sure.
And she came with me on her own goals.
Yeah.
So I'll be okay.
I'm sure you'll be okay.
I'll be okay.
I'm sure you'll
if
be okay.
Physically I can hang, I think I'll be okay.
And you know what? You're only going to get stronger. This bit to Neal Gap is tough because it's the early part of the hike.
The beginning.
Yeah, and you know, I as you saw today, I stop and poke my arse in the air because I'm bending forward and gasping for breath all the time, and it's just one of those things. You just have to get over it, and once you get over it, suddenly you find yourself going uphill, and you just suddenly realise I haven't stopped for about 200 yards, 300 yards.
Yes, I felt like that at Blood Mountain today because we stopped halfway up for lunch, which I didn't do last time.
Right.
So, but I think of it when I'm struggling. I just think about the marathons. My marathon first mile, 2, 3. It's like, oh my God, I'm never going to finish. It's hard, but you get into a groove.
That's right.
And
we always talk about the rhythm of the hike, and you'll definitely get that as well.
I felt like I was getting it like 3 days before I came off trail.
Right.
And but I had a family emergency. I had to go. So I know it's going to come back.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, you'll be good. You'll be fine. You'll be great.
Yeah.
Because I'm doubtless we'll see each other. I'll be struggling uphill, and so will you. So it'll be kind of fun.
I look forward to seeing you along the way.
Thanks for doing this. Thank you. Day 6, Bull Gap to Low Gap Shelter, a 10.5 mile day. Yes, I know, I'm breaking my own rules. I tell everybody, don't do more than 7 or 8 miles for the first couple of weeks. But I have a plan. One of our listeners and a previous guest on the show, Amanda Aguilar, had offered me use of her guest room in Hiawassee. And you know what? The thought of my own room in a nice house, well, why would I not? She also offered to make gumbo, which was pretty cool. So my plan was to get to Unicoi Gap so she could pick me up by Sunday, which necessitated the 10.5 miles on this day, and actually for the next day, which is Sunday, a 9.7 mile day. So, I thought I can do 10 miles. I'm feeling pretty good. But of course, the usual thing was up early, left late. I just still don't know why. I just have no idea. But to be fair, in my defence, there was a bit of a dust storm in my tent. I probably didn't batten it down sufficiently. High winds came into the gap that night, and it must have blown all the dust up, and I got some of it in my tent, and everything in my tent. had to beat the dust off it. You know, it was a bit of a shambles, to be honest with you, and the tent inside was a mess. So I had to turn that upside down in the morning, obviously, and just empty it of all the dust. It worked out. It was okay, but it was freaking cold that morning, and you know, to do it in the cold, I had to put my gloves on as well, which I must admit I thought I wasn't going to use them, but I've certainly used them because having been very warm the day before, it suddenly got really cold. And I kind of compromised. I had some coffee and I didn't want to boil any more water, so I had some granola with it, which is fine. Very early on, I bumped into a lady from the Georgia Appalachian Trail Club called Stacey. She's a trail ambassador. And we said, "Hi, how are you?" We started talking. She suddenly said those magic words. She said, "Are you Mighty Blue?" "Indeed I am," I said. And she was tickled pink. It was lovely, actually. You know, she listens to the podcast. She said she knew I was going to be out there at some stage, so she was glad she ran into me, and we had our picture taken together. Very nice, actually. And actually, that kind of buoyed me a bit. I don't know why, it just did. Buoyed me a bit. And I was hiking really strongly by now. And then I'm thinking to myself, it's a Saturday morning. I'm coming down into Tessantee Gap, and the previous two through hikes, I'd had Trail Magic on Tessantee Gap. And being a Saturday morning, I thought it's bound to happen. I'm kind of getting excited. I can't hear anything. I think, there's not going to be any there. But happily, there was. There was a bunch of Georgia ladies who say they're hiking for fun. They put out a great setup for all of us. Plenty of chairs around to sit around, washing station. There was Powerades. They were making tacos. The taco shells hadn't turned up, unfortunately, but I had the fillings, and that was lovely as well. Had a couple of cookies. It's a real treat to get that. And the great thing about it, if any of you have done this, going out of Tessantee Gap is a big climb, and you go over up Tessantee, the climb out of Tessantee Gap, then you go over to Hog Pen Gap, and I'm then thinking to myself, Saturday morning, Hog Pen Gap. Yep, there was some more trail magic there, just about 2 or 3 miles further on, and of course I naturally took advantage of that as well. I had a cheeseburger, which was lovely. It was a ministry of single Christians, which was kind of odd, but very nice. And they were all so charming and friendly and helpful, wanted to give us stuff. Got some soap, which was really nice to take as well. Eventually got to the shelter at 4 p.m. And even though I didn't really need to eat, of course I did. And I found a pretty good spot. It was away from the, clubhouse, away from the shelter, but it was a really good spot, and there were lots of people there, and we all kind of got together and started chatting and sitting around like you do on these trips. And I feel I'm getting to know these people more and more. There was a guy called Dan there who I'd met a day before. Older guy, younger than me, but older guy, really nice fella as well, and a strong hiker. There was Larry, there was Maybelline and Titi. There was Logan and Grace. So these names are going to come up, I guess, over the future weeks. But we all sat around, chatted, and I eventually turned in about 7:45, and it all went quiet after that. So that was the end of day number 6. So that's it for this week. I thought I'd leave you with just a couple of final thoughts. The trail just never goes away. You may go away and you come back to it, and the feeling you get when you touch it again, when you experience it again, is like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. It's still difficult. It's still grueling in many ways, but it has my heart in a way that I find it hard to explain sometimes, and I know I'm not doing a good job explaining it now, but I know that when I got back on trail, I mean, Dana and I have spoken on the phone, on video phone, several times, and she said I look so happy out there. And it's not that I'm unhappy in my life, obviously, otherwise, but the trail does something to me that I can't explain, but I know it does it, and I know I need it, and I know I'm so glad, I'm grateful I'm back there as well. One of the other things is that my prep that I've used is really standing me in great stead. You know, I exercise my legs, and I've really not struggled too much up some of these hills. I know that my legs will get stronger, but they've responded in much the same way as they did in 2019. And even though I've aged 7 years, I think the strengthening I did on my legs has been so beneficial. So I strongly advise anybody who ever wants to do this, just perhaps try a little bit of preparation, which I know I never did in the past. And the people out there, I still think they try to present the best version of themselves. I mean, this isn't uniform, obviously, and there are obviously some bad apples in every aspect of life. But the people you meet on trail, we've sat down and we've talked to each other about real life things that are going on, and we've opened up to each other in a way that you rarely see on trail. So I'm heartened by that. You know, I've read so much, as you have all read on Facebook, about the terrible things that people are on trail, but really we're just a bunch of guys and gals trying to coexist and make our way through the trail. And that's a wonderful thing. And those of you who've experienced it, you know what I mean. And lastly, I'm still walking. I'm now, even though this show doesn't cover that, I'm a day extra, but I'm now past 50 miles. And I don't know if you remember Tina Chunky. She did the bead by bead adventures. I've got my Appalachian Trail necklace, which is basically a map of the Appalachian Trail. There's a rubber ring which allows you to track your progress along the trail. I've moved my rubber ring 2 beads. I'm 2 beads out of the 3 beads through Georgia, and I'm still walking, and I'm still loving it. So that's what I'm thinking of at the end of this first week, but I'll see you all next time.